Welcome back. And with me in the studio, I have Adaora Onyema. Hello, Ada.
Hi, Tolu.
How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
Oh, nice. You look good.
You too.
Thank you so much. So Adaora is going to be discussing what I introduced earlier before we went on the break, and that is losing a loved one, coping and surviving. Because here you are, girl, and you're looking good. So Ada, can you just give us a very brief introduction of yourself?
Okay, my name is Adaora, as you rightly said. I'm from the East. I'm a widow. It's not a term I like using. I prefer single mom. But yes, I'm a widow. I have 3 lovely children, 2 boys and my lovely daughter. And so far, so well. I would say we've been coping.
Okay, that's great. That's good to hear. And before we go on, I just want to say to you, Ada, I understand that it's a very, very emotional topic for you, and we are here for you. TMS is here for you. If you do feel like stopping, you don't want to go on, and you need to take a pause, please just let me know, and that is totally fine with me. So I'm just going to dive right into it. So how did you lose your husband?
I lost him in 2016 to a bus accident.
Okay.
He was traveling from Asaba to Abuja. Their bus ran into a truck that was parked by the road. So the truck was parked by a curve.
Okay.
And at the speed the driver was coming at, he did not, of course, he couldn't see the curve that was coming. By the time he saw the truck, it was already too late. So he ran into the parked truck.
Okay. How was that for you?
Well, you know, people call this all sorts of things, but that day I felt something was just off that day.
So before you got any call or anything?
Yeah, I just felt off that day. I got home, and at that time I was in Lagos. I had come for an interview, so I was in my sister's place, and everybody was
excited.
They were all acting, "Oh, Adaora, you need to be strong. You need to be."
What is going on?
It didn't occur to me initially. I just continued with my day.
Okay.
And then later on, my choir members started coming in. I saw the choir head then. I saw his wife. I was like, okay, fine. They're also mutual friends with my sister and the husband.
Okay.
Then I saw like half of the choir in the house. I was like, okay.
Awkward.
What's happening here? I'm sure. Anyway, I was taken into a room by the sisters that came, my choir members that came, the ladies, taken into a room. Okay. And then somebody started, "Oh, Adaora, you know." And I think one person just got, she was just like a bed.
Hit it on the head,
Adaora,
like,
John has gone to be with the Lord.
Oh, God.
I was like, I zoned out, really. I zoned out. Somebody had to start, so I then heard somebody say, "Call her back, she's going, call her back." And that's how they had to start calling me. Adaora, come back, come back, come back, come back. It was like a dream.
It was unexplainable.
It was a nightmare. It was like, no, it can't be me. This was not the plan. The plan was live happily ever after, see our grandchildren, live together. This was not the plan. It was shocking. It was really shocking. I've had the opportunity to meet single mothers, those who lost their husbands. Okay. But I didn't think I was going to be the one wearing that shoe that day. It's not something I wish for an enemy to experience. Really. Okay.
I can't really say what I want to say because you said it all. You said, you know, the feeling, you can't really explain it, but I think you've actually explained it well enough for me because I already feel some type of way. So I can only understand how you feel, but that's your side. Now you have 3 amazing kids. How did they deal with it? How did you help them deal with it? Because, you know, you're an adult and you understand death. I don't think the kids, I don't know, how old were your kids then?
So this happened 4 years ago. So my first son was 5.
Okay.
My second son he's 6 now, so he was 2. My daughter was just 2 months old.
Great. So please, Ada, explain to me, how How do you and the kids cope with this?
Before then, I'm a firm believer of telling children the way things are.
Say it as it is.
But say it in the language that they will understand.
Okay.
So, because it's such things cause problems eventually when you try to cover it up. So I didn't say anything the first day. And my first son is very sensitive, very, very sensitive. By the second, I think the second or third day, I had to call them. My second son was too little, probably didn't understand. But the first one, he was very close to his dad. I called him and told him, maybe Daddy has gone to be with the Lord. I was like, okay, what does that mean? I said, Daddy has gone to heaven. Okay. So at that age, I felt that was what was age appropriate for him at that time. Daddy has gone to heaven. We are not going to see Daddy in a very long time. As we grow up, I'll explain better. To you. Yeah. Okay. So at that time, that was what I told him. So when people ask me, where's your dad? I say, my daddy has gone to heaven. Then they look at me like,
but that's the truth.
So for that time, that was what
was appropriate for him. Okay. This is how I see it from my angle. Like, dealing with loss is very personal to everybody.
Yes, it is.
And I'm sure as time goes on with the kids, there are certain things that you then need to, it's like a follow-up conversation, you know. The second child grows up, then you have another conversation. It's like, and then a third one, and then.
So true.
So there's a part that I also want to discuss, which is having your spouse's picture around his belongings. And, you know, the kids see your pictures together, your wedding pictures. How did you slowly ease out or, you know, take out some of his belongings? How did you do that with the kids?
Well, at that time, they were pretty young.
Okay.
So I relocated. So I left Abuja, relocated to Lagos. I got a job, thankfully, at that time.
Okay.
So I didn't move with most of his things. I just took what I needed and left the rest. So
was this on purpose?
So yes, it was. It was.
Okay.
I didn't want to. There was a lot around that situation I didn't want to deal with, so I just left it alone. There are more important things in life than property. Property can always be replaced. So at that time, I think because of my first son's sensitivity to such matters, I tried to not always bring it up, because whenever his daddy is mentioned, he will break down and start crying.
Oh, wow.
But then also, my philosophy is, yes, for now, you break down when you hear it, but the time will come when you have to hear it. So over time, we would have conversations about it. He would cry. His other brother, my second son, is a bit more, he's a bit firmer, he's stronger, or so it seems. So he was able to take it by the time I talked to him about it.
At what age was that? Probably about the same age his brother was when you...
yeah, this was like maybe a year later.
Okay.
A year later, when I felt he could comprehend that daddy is not around. My daughter was still a baby at that time. You know. So at intervals, I would have that conversation with them to know where their state of mind is, and to, so that they don't feel like they are different from every other child.
Okay. I
still have videos, I still have pictures, I show them.
Okay.
My daughter is a striking resemblance of her dad. Just that she's light-skinned, he's dark-skinned, I still, for my daughter too, by the time because I don't know, that girl, I don't know who she looks like. I also show her
pictures.
Her dad's picture. This is your dad.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I really appreciate your, being open and coming to come and discuss this. But with regards to you as a person, that's the side, the children's side, which is also, understanding how to deal with them. Do you have a support system, like a team? Because for every woman, it is important. Even, just as a mom, 2 kids, 3 kids, you need a support system, someone you can always call on to. What's your support system like? Because I'm sure there are people out there that are probably going through the same thing, and we just want to know what's the...
This is what I have to say.
Please do.
For support system.
Yes.
Woe to him who doesn't have one when tragedy struck. When tragedy strikes. My siblings and I are like, my siblings are my best friends. I'm the oldest of 5 children.
Okay.
I have 3 sisters and a brother. Those guys are just, they are fantastic. They came through for me. They still come through for me. Right now where I live is close to one of my younger sisters' place.
Okay.
So they help me to juggle.
Okay.
That's what makes it possible for me to go out, go to work, because I know that if I'm not able to get home before they do, my sister is there to yes, cushion the effects. The support system is, I can't explain. Every day I just tell them, you guys are the best.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I also had some very, very good friends who have become like a brother, one especially, and then sisters, and then I don't want to sound religious, but my choir, those guys, my choir, they were very, very supportive, very supportive. Yeah.
That religious part you talked about, I was just going to touch on it, but I'm just going to wait, and then when we come back after the break, we will touch on the religious part. Thank you, Ada. Cool. Welcome back to the Millennium Mom Show, and we were discussing coping with the loss of a loved one, and Ada is still here with me in the studio. So before we went on the short break, I was going to touch on your spirituality, because I personally feel like spirituality is very important, because I heard you talking about your choir members, your church members, and I wanted to touch on that like quickly. Like, do you feel like being you're a very spiritual person?
Yes, I am.
Because do you feel like that also helped you to manage and cope nicely? Because sometimes your support system might even be like a church. It could be, you could find a lot of solace in going to church and just picking up from there. Do you think that also helped you?
Yes, it helps me a lot. The essence of a person is not just the physical, it's mostly who you are on the inside. The stronger you are on the inside, the better the chances are that you'll be able to cope with difficulties that come your way. And because of my relationship with Christ, it helped me a lot, because there are nights when I couldn't explain to even my support system how I was feeling. There was some things I couldn't tell them. Things I couldn't, I just had to voice out to God and just tell him, Father, this was not the plan. Your word says that your plan for me is good and not evil. This is evil. And I think that's one thing a lot of people don't do. You try to bottle these things. When you look for it, it means to
let it out.
And my relationship with my Heavenly Father was very key in my coping and recovery.
Thank you for that. So, being a mom of 3, I am very sure that there are a lot of things that happen in your life, in your kid's life, that just makes you miss your husband so much. So, it would be weird for me to ask that, do you miss him? So, I'm not going to ask you that, do you miss him? I'm just going to ask you that, what are the things that happen and make you just miss him so much? Because there are certain things that happen to be, like, for instance, maybe my husband travels and the light packs up in the area, and I'm like, oh, if this guy was here now, just sort this out. What things that
I remember having a conversation with a pastor that came to visit us then when my husband was still alive.
Okay.
My husband was into the singing. He had a singing ministry, music ministry. I too.
Oh, wow.
We were both singers. He played the keyboard, the guitar, and all. I did more of singing. I can't play any instruments.
Okay.
So he came and asked me, Adaora, what do you desire most? If God were to ask you, what's the prayer point on your prayer point that's top on your list? And I said, I just want to be a good wife.
Wow.
And a fantastic mom to my children. That's how I was willing to be a stay-at-home mom, provided I would be a backbone for my husband and raise credible children. So when this happened, I remember that conversation and I was like, how do we do it? Because then in my prayers, I'm always praying, oh God, as my husband goes out to, to get our daily bread, you keep him, you protect him, guide him to where to. So now, who is the breadwinner? This was not the plan. How? So I'm the one that's going to be breadwinning, paying school fees, thinking about lights, making decisions about schooling. It was too much for me. There were things I didn't imagine I would be doing
by yourself.
I didn't. This was. For instance, what ticks me off most times, when I see a father and a daughter, I still can't recover from that. Because for my boys, at least they got the privilege of meeting him, but she never did. She doesn't. She only sees his picture. He only carried her to the hospital and 2 months really. So that always gets to me when I see a father and a daughter at any age. It always gets to me. When you hear people say, "Oh, my husband will get that," I'm like, here we go. Okay. And then yes, of course, when you have to do school runs, PTAs, I have to miss some of them because I can't be at work. But thankfully, my children understand. Somehow we converse, and
that's you. That's how you have made them to understand. Okay, this is mommy doing everything. So kudos to you. I think if you tell me that your children understand, that's on you. That's your good job. Because they can only understand what you instill in them, how you make them understand. So well done, Ada. You're doing a great job. So no, it's fantastic. There are people that you still have this conversations with, and they're like, oh, my children still break down, and my children are still because for your daughter, for instance, I'm here thinking, okay, it breaks you. Like, does she have that conversation with you? Like, oh, mommy, does she have that conversation?
My children actually ganged up on me and said, mommy, our cousin's neighbor has a new baby. When are we going to have our new baby? Okay. Mommy, when is the new daddy going to come? Okay. So those are the questions I'm getting now. So when are we getting a new daddy? Okay. So when I hear certain things, I say that I think for me, I think God just loves me. I think I give my children a
fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Well done, Ada. Well done. You are doing fantastic with the children. So I'm going to also ask you, this may be emotional, but if you knew your husband was going to go and be with the Lord within a short period of time, what would you have done differently? Like in your marriage, in your relationship together? Some people, they just tell them, like maybe they have a terminal disease and the doctor says to them, you're going to live for 1 year, and they're like, I'm going to travel the world. What would you have done differently?
I think what I would have done differently would be more outspoken about my opinions and the way I feel about things. Before then, it's not that it's a bad thing, but I was this submissive, very quiet, don't talk kind of wife. So, and not even just the wife, a person. I would, when somebody does something that hurts me, I'll just bottle it up. I'll be carrying face for the person instead of doing the adult mature thing.
This is how I feel.
Approaching the person.
Okay.
So that was the kind of person I was. So looking back, I think I would have been more open. I would have.
About your feelings.
Sometimes my husband would have done something to me, and I'd just be carrying my face. Like, he cannot read your mind. Just go and tell him. Have that kind of conversation. So that is what I think I would have done better. I'm actually doing it now. It's difficult for me. It's not my person, but it's necessary because I'm also looking at my children. I need them to have that balance so that they are better people, really.
Balance, like, I think what you mean by balance, when you go, like, going to...
I don't want them to be timid like I was.
Okay.
I want them to be able to voice their opinion.
Their feelings.
Respectfully.
Okay.
But make sure you talk about
Always
it.
talk.
Talk about it. Don't bottle it up. Because except God reveals it to somebody, the average human being cannot read your mind. Nobody is a mind reader. The only way a problem can be solved is when it is shared. So really, that's one thing I took ownership of, to be more outspoken about things, about decisions, about my opinions, regardless of who it is. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Ada. I'm going to touch on another topic that is very, very important in raising children, and that is going to be finance. I know you talked about when you lost your husband and how you felt like a lot of things would, come on you, like paying school fees and all these things. So right now, you are here, you are coping, you are surviving. How do you deal with that very important part? Because I don't know what it was like 5 years ago, but I'm sure it's still having the same effects it's going to have now with just you and nobody, helping you to cushion the effects. Having three children is a lot for two people now, overly overwhelming for one person. How do you deal with that?
First of all, I'm honest with myself about my earnings and my expenses. I cannot come and kill myself, like they would say. That's just it. So I looked at my salary. I looked at what the important things were: accommodation, school fees, feeding, and clothing. Of course, transportation for my children and for myself. So when I was getting a place, I needed to also take into consideration getting somewhere that I'll still have my support system around. So where I live currently is like a 5-7 minutes walk away from my sister's house.
Okay.
Yes. Their school is the same distance away from my house. It's a walkable distance to and from.
Okay. So no school bus?
No school bus. Besides, I believe it's a good experience for them to learn how to use the road. Yeah, it's true. They learn how to cross, how to mind the Lagos traffic.
Okay.
So I was very honest with myself about those things. I didn't do anything that is not necessary. Oh, one bed. They say the lace is 25,000. I said I will look for they say it's a green lace, Abi, 25. Okay. Don't worry, I'll look for a green dress I have. Will you bounce me from the? You bounce me.
Okay.
I have the IV, so I live within my means. I anything that's probably a bit high end that I want to get, I'll start saving towards it. But that like my people say, no, I won't do that.
Okay, that's great. That's a great financial advice anyway. Regardless of wherever you find yourself, you'd always cut your coat according to your size. Now you now have, children, and then you know how to manage your finances. So that's great. So I'm a very, very firm believer of self-care. Like, I love self-care. I take my self-care seriously.
Yes.
And I feel like it's almost like a norm for every woman that comes on here. I always like them. So what's your self-care routine? What do you do for yourself? I know you're doing everything for your children right now. What do you do for yourself, Ada? Because you are doing a whole lot, and you are doing well. What do you do for yourself?
What do I do for myself?
Yes.
Well, once in a while, I buy Chinese.
Great. Do you lock yourself up and eat it all by yourself? No? Oh my God. You make me look like a mean mom.
Thankfully. It's just my first one that's really into it.
Okay, so you just want, okay, great. So it's just both of you?
Yes, of course. No, not both of us. You just take like 3 spoons and that's the end.
Okay, so just, okay.
Yes. So once in a while, I just buy Chinese at home and eat it. Okay. Once in a while, I go out with friends, with colleagues.
Okay.
I also try to, I try not to look like a widow. There's this thing about, that's why I don't like using the word widow. When they look, and I tell women who are in that's my group, don't look like a widow. You don't have to live expensive, but just look good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like to look good.
Yeah, just look good.
Everybody should be a firm believer of looking good. Okay, we've touched on all that, Ada, and I feel like I have pulled strength from you as well. I'm looking at you and I'm like, this woman is doing so great, and I love it. I love to see it. I love to see it. When we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, Ada is going to be giving us some advice and some tips on dealing with losing a loved one. Welcome back to the show, and in studio with me we still have Ada. So Ada, I said earlier when we went on the break that I am going to be asking you some questions that might touch on like advice and things that might also help to support women that find themselves in this particular situation. So, we have in Nigeria, we have a lot of cultural things happening, and we have a lot of beliefs and morals that surround losing your husband. So what do you think that the society as a whole can do to support, permit me to use the word widows, or women that have actually lost their loved one and they are trying to cope? What can we do in terms of, laws, empathy, just how can we help?
Okay, first of all, let me add this. I'm also speaking to widowers.
Okay.
Because when this topic is brought up, it's women that are usually
more focused on.
Men to also experience these things.
Absolutely.
But because of our society where men are expected to bottle things
Brace up.
I know a few widowers too.
Okay.
They also experience. So it's both for widows and for widowers.
Absolutely.
First of all, people around widows and widowers should understand and acknowledge that their grief is real. It's not something, and everybody has a different grieving style. The way I grieve may not be the way.
Person.
I was going to work. I think I resumed work a week after the burial.
Wow.
That was my own way of handling grief. I couldn't see myself staying at home to have worsened the issue. For someone else could be isolation.
True.
So understand this and respect the person's grieving style. There's no one size fits all. That's for one. Then families too can also help see if the person, when they come to talk, family members shouldn't try to be like, these things Nigerians do. When I'm saying something I've gone through, the other person is trying to tell them.
Me too.
Me too. That's how. No. At that
stop.
point, they don't want to hear me too. The person doesn't want to hear. The person just wants to talk. The person wants to talk.
Listen to
just
them.
Listen. Give them a hug, encourage them, pray with them. If need be, take them to see a doctor to check out their mental health. And for those who have children, I don't know how possible this is, but schools should look out for such children who are from single parents or widowers, because there's a lot of financial strain on them. Something that two people used to carry
and
is
then
being
it's just
borne
one person.
by one person. So my children's school, they're very understanding when I mention it to them. So, but thankfully, and I keep on giving all glory to God. By God's special grace, I've been able to pay their school fees most times before time. And yes, planning is there, but then people have been very kind and generous to me. So schools have to take that into consideration.
Okay.
If the typical waiting time grace period is a week, such people should be given 2-3 weeks. It's not intentional. It's just So that's what I have to say. And then for those who are grieving, it's okay to grieve. Like in the office, I would work and take 5-10 minutes and go and cry. I'll cry. Come back and continue. And my colleagues are very understanding.
You think that's also like your coping mechanism? Like, let me cry my eyes out.
I'll cry. I didn't bottle it. I'll cry. And then my sister, her ear was full. Talk. And she's a very mature person mentally.
Okay.
She will not talk. She'll just
listen.
It will be fine.
Okay.
It will be fine. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. I'm going to go to a fun one now. So from your conversation earlier, you talked about your kids, talking about, when are you going to give us a child? When are you going to give us another daddy, So do you have such plans that your kids have for you? Because now it's not your plan, it's them. They have those plans. So do you have such plans? Are your plans aligned? Because it's been how long now?
It's going to 5 years.
Okay. So you see, it's safe for me to ask that question now. I can ask you. So, Ada, do you have that plan?
Your question just reminded me of something, a text message I received from my dad.
Okay.
I think the Sunday after we had the 1-year anniversary of my late husband's death, And then I saw your text. You can now move on. So
I like your daddy.
So like, wow, they didn't even wait.
Okay.
1 year later,
Are
you
you
can now
serious?
move on. That was the text I got from him.
Okay.
Yes. I believe life goes on. You
Okay.
can't. I can't be stuck in my grief forever. Because I mean, life is good. Yes, if it happens, I'm very open to it. I'm not. I don't plan to remain single forever. If it happens, sure, they'll get a new daddy.
Okay, you know this if it happens, because it's also one of the reasons why I asked you about your self-care. Like if it happens, could also I know you're really like, oh, if it happens, but you know, this
If
is
it
a
happens, I don't want to put pressure on myself. I don't want to be
Sure.
in a desperate space. I'm not
Sure.
desperate to remarry, but if it happens, fine.
Okay, that's good. It's
Yeah.
good to hear, because that means you're also thinking about, you know, your personal stuff. So that works for me. So this is going to be more of a reach out question, and it's very I think it's going to be very personal to you, because you said earlier that grief is personal to everyone.
Yes.
And everybody have a way, you know, that they grieve. So what would you tell the woman out there watching you, sitting here? You look all, you know, nice, pretty. I'm sure someone that just lost a husband like last week is thinking, I don't think I can get to this place that Adaora is in. I'm sure 5 years ago, you would have probably seen somebody like you and said, nah, I probably won't make it, you know, this far. And loss is very, it could be wide range as well. A woman could lose, you know, her family. A woman could lose her husband. A woman could lose, you know, a child of her brother. I feel like it can't be as personal as losing your husband, because that's somebody you already share a bond with. What advice do you have for that woman watching you, listening to you, looking at you as a survivor, somebody that is coping and doing great? Because that's what I see when I look at you. I don't see you as a widow. I see you as a super mom that is doing it and doing it so well. What do you have to say to them?
First of all, I would like to remind them, I'm sure they've heard it, but since it's coming from someone like who has experienced the same thing as they have, I want to remind them that, as the Bible says, there is nothing new under the sun. It's new to you, but it's not new under the sun. There is someone who has experienced it, maybe at different levels, different experiences, but someone has lost her husband.
Sure.
And has survived it. Reach out to such people, especially those who have made positive, who have survived it and survived it in a good way. I had one person in mind when I lost my husband, and her daughter was one of those who came to break. She was one that just blotted it out. John has gone to be with the Lord. Her mom is that woman she's a superwoman. She raised 4 children.
Oh wow.
Alone. She's in her 60s now. She's still single. And so when it happened to me, I looked at her. I look at Pastor Kate, and I would tell myself, if Pastor Kate could make it,
I can do
make
it.
If Pastor Kate could make it, I can do it. And I didn't have so many conversations with her, but seeing her and seeing her children
Motivated you.
encouraged me. So
Sure.
I like to let them know that it's okay to grieve. Choose your grieving style. Let it out. If you need to go and if you need to go for counseling, go for it. Don't keep yourself there. It's also okay to move on. There is nothing wrong there. It's okay to move on. When you've healed, it's okay to move on, because there's a world out there that's waiting for you. At a point, I came to realize something, that if I hadn't gone through this, I probably would not understand how to, reach out to someone who has experienced it. Since I lost my husband, I've had 2 friends who lost their husbands too, and they all reached out to me.
Okay.
Adaora, how did you do it? How did you do it? And every now and then I would tell them, explain, reach out. So find someone who survived it, and let the grieving grieve, heal, and move on. It's okay to move, because I think a lot of women feel guilty.
Okay.
When it's time to move on. It's okay to move on. And be honest with your children if you have children. Be honest with your emotions. That's what I have to share with them.
Thank you, Ada. Thank you so very much. It was amazing, insightful, and great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for all the insight you have given us on this. Thank you very much, and we'll be right back shortly. Welcome back to the Millennium Mom Show, and we're still here talking about losing a loved one, coping and surviving. So, Ada, this is going to be a very funny one to you, because it's almost like everyone I talk to these days have plans on, let me use this word, running away. Because you're talking to someone and they're like, you know, this country is this, I just want to relocate. And the reason I'm going to ask you this question is because, you know, of the kids and what has happened to you. Do you have plans on, you know, relocation for a particular purpose? It couldn't, you know, the situation is bad in this country. We're trying to manage and everybody's dealing with it. But you could also want to give them like a fresh start. Like, just let's go to Canada, or let's go to America, and just, it could be for, you know, your daughter. You know, you can't cut that side of their life away, but maybe you can just give them like a base or a foundation to start afresh and just move on. Do you have such plans? Think it's in your...
Yeah, honestly, I do have plans to relocate.
Okay.
Canada was in view. I've expanded my scope.
Okay.
But there's also a plan B. So while I'm working on the whole Canada relocation thing, yes, I want them to have a different perspective. I want them to see life from the other side. Dual citizenship too is fantastic.
Great, my sister.
I think that's, for me, that's the primary, because I have an idea in my head that once we get that, we'll come back to Nigeria. Yeah.
Do you see? Because one of the main reasons why I asked you about the question, because I've actually met people that this same situation happened to. I have an aunt that we lived together in London, and she lost her husband, and she just packed them and left. Because, you know, for you, it was probably easy for you to be able to say, you know what, I'm not going to pick certain things from the house and I'm going to move on. Some people just want to up and go. So for you, and that's their coping mechanism. For you, it's not a case of let's just go away, let's run away. It's a case of let's get a better life.
Yes, it is. Yes, so that's the plan. If that doesn't work, there's a plan B. I'll stay in Nigeria. That's the reason why this year I've decided to do a lot of investing. My children will be going to my first son.
You need to advise me on investing. I keep hearing you talking about investing in like,
yeah. So I've signed on to a platform where I'm learning investing and types of investing.
That's great.
Reason is my son will still be going into secondary school. School fees is increasing.
Please tell me about
their appetites are increasing. Feeding, everything is increasing. So I need to. And I'm not business inclined. So I need to find avenues where I can put my money for it to yield and work for me.
Tips to other. Invest. And this doesn't even have to do with, you know, being by yourself. It's
just a basic human survival thing. So that's the other part. So that's the plan B. Also doing insurance, education insurance.
Okay.
So that when that time comes, there's provision for them. I'm not under duress. I'm able to put them in good secondary schools.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ada. Thank you so much. It was so amazing to have you here. I don't think anybody that is going through this same situation would have been able to. I don't think any other person can reach out to them like somebody that has just gone through something. So thank you for helping us. Thank you for supporting our TMMS women that are out there that just lost a loved one, that is coping with loss, or just trying to survive and live every day as it comes. You have heard it all from Ada. Grief is unique, is different. Please feel free to mourn, talk to somebody, find a support system, And if you're spiritual, pray. You can't really go wrong with prayers. So thank you, Ada. And to all our millennial moms out there, don't forget to follow us on our social media handles. Till we come your way next time, keep being a super millennial mom.